I think we could talk about this issue every week and always come up with new content and honestly find people that are really struggling with this. Hey, it's Scott Beebe with Business on Purpose, and we're going to talk today about how to break the habit of working too much and delegating leadership. There's a little subtitle I put to this: the doing mind versus the thinking, solving, equipping, and delegating mind. And if you'll wait to the end of this video, I'm going to show you a resource you can go grab, either in print form, ebook, or audiobook, that I think will be really helpful for you to start at Basecamp. We recently had some heroic clients in discussing their transition from what we call the first mountain to the second mountain. All clients coming into the Business on Purpose coaching experience begin at what we call Basecamp, where they're equipped and installed with the base level tools to begin operating their business on purpose. These tools systematize 4 primary areas: purpose, people, process, and profit. And so when you start to look at those at Basecamp, I want you to imagine each person is getting fitted with the appropriate business harness, and then we begin outfitting them with the tools of a written vision story, master process roadmap. We subdivide their bank accounts and dashboards, and about 23 other tools that are often either missing or they're just in partial form. And that's okay. That's what Basecamp's for. Upon being outfitted and equipped at Basecamp, we begin climbing the business owner's first mountain, where each of these tools, both for the owners and the key leaders, are implemented and tested. After proving themselves the utility of these tools and enduring a few slips and falls along the way on that first mountain, the owner and key leaders begin to set their minds on the second mountain. Now, while it takes a few years to become equipped and acclimated, owners on the second mountain climb realize that the equipment and testing they have received was necessary for the second mountain climb, and yet no amount of training could prepare them for the mindset shift that they're going to have to get into and needed to make the important move from the doer to the thinker-solver. And I'll get into that in just a minute. While in this recent meeting that I was sitting with these clients at, I was physically watching our clients begin to wrestle in their mind with the death of the doer mind and the awkward adolescent growth of their thinking and solving mind. So a phrase we remind our heroic owners often is, you must move from task leadership to people leadership. So I want you to think about that in your own business. And remember, task, never talk back. Task, don't project emotion. Task, move when you want them to move, and they don't move when you let them sit. People are very different. So as we worked through this death and new life scenario, we stumbled upon a paradox, and I actually wrote it down. This is the sheet of paper. Got it right here. And so I'm going to lay out this paradox in 2 different forms that I thought would be very helpful. And the paradox looks like this: the doer's loop, or the doing loop, versus the thinking, solving, equipping, and delegating loop, or the TSED loop. Here's how it works. For those caught in the doing loop, more doing will always be their answer to challenges that should require thinking, solving, equipping, delegating, the TSED, instead. The doing then cascades into this death spiral of sorts. Doing then leads to working too long. Working too long leads to burnout. Burnout leads to frustration and perpetual negativity. The negativity is eased briefly due to an increase in short-term income because the doing produces a more immediate response. The irritation and money then responds with consumption. We consume food or stuff or anything that will numb the pain of more doing. The consumption then leads to emptiness, which breeds bitterness. The bitterness will spur one of 2 responses: either more doing, leading to more spiraling, or the second is opting out of the business altogether and doing something else. Remember, only 4% of businesses see their 10th birthday. The doing loop is endless until it's broken either by brokenness or broken through a willful desire to begin thinking, solving, equipping, and delegating, the TSED. When an owner decides to forego the easy solution of just, quote, doing it myself, and instead leans into the thinking, solving, equipping, and delegating loop, then they'll begin to break the cycle and in that find joy. But how do they do that? I want you to think about a small fire that's burning in your business right now. Just one. I know there's probably multiple. You could go put that fire out yourself right now. You would get the joy of feeling like a micro superhero, if only for a moment, and the problem's solved. For now. The downside is that you have likely left your team feeling inadequate and certainly ill-equipped to handle the problem in the future, which means you've signed yourself up for a lifetime of doing. Or you can make a different choice. You can make the TSED choice. And here's how the TSED model works. First, you see a fire start burning. And instead of you rushing in with all of your gear to put that fire out, you stop. In fact, you never put the gear on. You see the problem, which invites you to think about a solution. Once you have documented or recorded the solution, and maybe you've even done it while you're putting out the fire, that's okay, as long as it's the last time that you put out the fire. Then what you've done with that documentation or that recording is you've equipped another person to permanently extinguish that fire every time it flares up in the future. The delegation comes when you actually prepare the training. Trust the other person to execute on the training, and then you have a set follow-up to get a report back on the progress. You have now shown dignity, humanity, leadership. You've shown all of that to the other person while saving yourself hours of time and frustration, both of which cannot be reversed. See, once time is lost, it's not recaptured. And once frustration is vented, it's out. Think, solve, equip, delegate. TSED. We don't need you to be our superhero. Don't be offended. You don't need to shoulder that additional weight. We need you to make time to think, solve, equip, and delegate. And so by walking through the TSED loop, you create efficiency and empowerment. The efficiency and empowerment then creates margin. The margin creates a profit of time, money, and connection, which snowballs into generosity. So today you can make a choice to put on the cape of doing, or you can stay in the firehouse and make time to think, solve, equip, and delegate. One leads to a death spiral of frustration. The other leads to joy and eventually generosity that becomes a work worth doing and liberates you from chaos to make time for what matters most. If you're ready to get started on the foundational Basecamp equipment, then go to mybusinessonpurpose.com/book and grab copies of my print book, ebook, or audiobook, Let Your Business Burn. Stop putting out fires, discover purpose, and build a business that matters.